Hey, what's up y'all? My name is Dwayne Aaron and welcome to my channel where I'm here to talk all things recruitment and personal development. So we've been in this COVID-19 situation now for the last seemingly forever. We've seen a lot of companies react to COVID-19 by doing layoffs, decreasing their company size, and then rebounding from those efforts to do mass hiring throughout all of tech. And the tech landscape is more competitive than ever, as we've seen an increase in open jobs all across the tech landscape. Now, I'm seeing this from a lot of high growth companies from Robinhood, Stripe, Airbnb, DoorDash, trying to meet the demand so that we can satisfy customer needs. I'm currently with Opendoor right now, and we're seeing hiring increase across the board. As we look to double our company in size again, quick plug here, we went from 900 people to 2,500 people in the last year alone. So if you guys want to join Opendoor, now's a great time. How is this affecting the recruiter landscape? Now, I've been looking through my email messages and I've seen countless emails and countless in-mails. And as recruiters, we serve a pretty important role that it's pretty much up to us when it comes to really scaling the company out and meeting all of its growth targets. So I was having a conversation with some of my recruiter friends the other day talking about recruiters and the importance of good recruiters on the team, because this can really make or break companies' growth targets. And if we're not able to successfully hire great recruiters for the team, then it's going to directly affect the company. And we were able to boil it down to 5 traits. Now, these are all personal opinion, and to be honest, I'd really love your input on this as well, because there's a lot of traits that make great recruiters out there, but I'd love to hear your opinion on what you guys think makes a great recruiter. Let's talk about these 5 traits, and I'd like to start it off with this first one, because I think this is so key when it comes to great recruiters, and that's the desire to be a great recruiter. For recruiters, if you have the desire to be a great recruiter, you're going to do all the steps necessary in order to go above and beyond in whatever you're doing, in whatever task you're doing. And it's easy to have the desire when you just start a job, or you're 3 months into a job, or if you're starting to taste the success and the wins. But how do you keep up with that desire if you're no longer seeing the successes after 2 weeks of no placements, or 2 months of no placements, or all of a sudden a candidate decides that they don't want to start after signing your offer letter? Now, this desire is also so key, because people that have the desire to be a great recruiter will constantly want to change and will constantly want to improve and adapt to the market. And I love this because this shows a growth mindset and a growth mentality to always be learning and always keeping up to date with processes and tools and what's going on within the market. Now, I'm glad that we're talking about candidates and clients, because this leads to the perfect segue for trait number 2, empathy. Now, I say empathy because this is important, and the definition of empathy is really understanding what's going on in the other person's shoes. When you're working with your candidates and when you're working with your clients, it's really important to have that scope of lens to really what's going on in their situation, so that when an excuse comes up, then it doesn't take you personally. And like, you can't let recruiting get personal, because once you let recruiting get personal, then it starts to affect you. And when it starts to affect you, it starts to affect your performance. And when it starts to affect your performance, then you're naturally just not gonna wanna do your job. So when it comes to empathy, especially when working with clients, I love to ask during client meetings, or what's really going on in your situation? What are some of the pain points that you're experiencing? Why is this role how is this role gonna affect your workday? So number 3, let's talk about reps and consistency. For this one, becoming a great recruiter does not happen overnight. So you have to naturally build, and you have to work at it. And becoming great at anything takes work. Just like when you're working out, you're not gonna expect great results overnight. It takes hours and hours of preparation and consistency in order to get from where you are to where you want to be. So I like the 10,000 hour rule, for example, that Malcolm Gladwell speaks about in his book called The Outliers. And 10,000 hour rule is basically suggesting that it'll take up to 10,000 hours to really master your craft. But the whole point of the 10,000 hour rule is that it'll take hours and hours of practice in order for you to get from point A to point B. And in order for you to get the reps and the consistency in to naturally develop your craft. So when it comes to building reps and building consistency with your job, you have to put yourself in the position where you're going to deal with the hardest situation. So like this can relate to overcoming objections. And when it comes to overcoming objections, if you're not consistently reaching out to people, then you're not setting up your calls. And if you're not setting up your calls, then you're not putting yourself in those situations where you're gonna come up with the objections. And this is so key for great recruiters, because one thing I believe in great recruiters is that they're able to deal with any situation, or they're able to handle any situation gracefully. Now, I wanna talk about trait number 4, because I think this trait is super key when it comes to great recruiters, and it talks about resourcefulness. Now, in order to become a great recruiter, you do not have to have every tool in the world. Like, we have great and amazing tools out there, such as Gem or email scraping tools like Contact Out or Rocket Reach, but to be honest with you, recruiters are able to get by if they're resourceful enough to adapt to the situation that they're in. For example, if you're starting your own consulting agency, then let's say you want to recruit over LinkedIn, but you can't pay for a LinkedIn recruiter, then what I've done in the past is I've directly looked at their LinkedIn public profile, added a candidate, and then sent them a personalized note to spark the conversation and see if they wanted to chat about whatever I had to offer. You always have to continue to question and have that questionable attitude to be effective in your role. Alright, so lastly, I want to talk about trait number 5. This is having a sense of urgency. I was reading a book the other day called The 2-Minute Rule, and this states that if there's a task that takes you less than 2 minutes to complete, knock it out immediately, because this will alleviate the burden in your mindset, and this will help you have more focus time to do the things that are more important throughout the workday. So one of the goals of my workday is to keep my email inbox consistently at 0, and I try to keep this goal in my mind. And one of the things that helps me out with this is navigating through your settings inbox and then placing all of your unread emails directly to the top so you can look at them as tasks. And any email that doesn't require an action item for me to complete, like a reply, then I'll go ahead and read it, because it's something that I can always come back to. But my goal is to always keep my messages unread. So when it comes to replying to a candidate, do it as fast as possible, because honestly, if you're not first, you're last. And if you don't get to the candidate first, and if you're not first to push them through the recruiting process, then there's a pretty good likelihood that you might lose out on this candidate. And having a sense of urgency is so important, because it shows that you really care about the recruitment process, or giving a great candidate experience. That one thing I love to do is I give my candidates my personal number. I'll text them directly. I'll give them a status update or a play-by-play on what's really going on in the recruitment process, and I'll be as transparent as possible. Because I remember when I was looking for a job, and one of the worst things that can happen is not having an understanding on what's going on the other side. Now, I'm not saying tell the candidate everything. However, I am saying try to give as timely updates as possible, because if it was your shoes, you'd want the same. Now, those are my 5 traits on what makes a great recruiter, and I'd love to hear your opinion, whether it's candidates, if you've had an experience with a recruiter and you've had an experience with a great recruiter, or if it's a hiring manager that was able to deliver results and results quickly, or if it's a recruiting manager or other recruiters, it doesn't matter. I would love to hear your opinion on what y'all think makes a great recruiter. And to tell you the truth, it's a collective effort between all of us recruiters. So I'd love to hear from y'all. If there's something that you're curious about the recruitment industry that you want me to talk about, I'd be more than happy to make a video for it. And in the meantime, I hope y'all have a great week. My name is Dwayne Aaron, and thanks for tuning in. Cheers, y'all.